There's a reason this 3,000-year-old poem shows up at hospital beds, at gravesides, on the lips of people who haven't prayed in years. Soldiers have whispered it in foxholes. Mothers have prayed it over hospital cribs. People who couldn't tell you a single other verse of scripture can finish this one from memory. The Lord is my shepherd. Psalm 23 has carried more people through more dark nights than any words ever written. But here's what almost no one notices. Hidden at the exact center of this psalm, at its darkest line, one small word changes. Just one. And that one word is the entire secret. By the end of this story, you'll see it, and you'll never read this psalm the same way again. Every story we tell is really a story about you.
First, you need to know who wrote this, because it wasn't written in a chapel, and it wasn't written by a soft man. David was a shepherd before he was ever a king, the youngest of 8 sons, the one nobody remembered to invite when the prophet came to dinner. While his brothers trained for war, David was sent to the wilderness with the family's sheep, sleeping in open fields, alone for weeks at a time. And the wilderness of Judea was not a postcard. It was heat and stone and predators. David himself tells us he fought off lions and bears with his bare hands to pull lambs out of their mouths. This is the boy who later walked into a valley to face a giant, while an entire army hid behind him. Where do you think he learned that? And here's the thing about sheep, because David wants you to know it. Sheep are nearly defenseless. They can't outrun predators. They panic easily. They won't drink from moving water, only still. And a sheep will not lie down, cannot rest, unless it feels completely safe. No predators, no tension in the flock, no hunger. All of it has to be settled first. Remember that. A shepherd wasn't a picture of comfort. A shepherd was the only thing standing between the flock and death. So years later, when David is a king who has been hunted through caves by a jealous ruler, betrayed by his own son, surrounded by enemies most of his life, he picks up a pen. And out of everything he could have called God, warrior, fortress, king, he reaches back to those wilderness nights and writes the boldest claim of his life. The Lord is my shepherd. The God of the universe watches over me the way I watched over those sheep, personally, fiercely, daily. I lack nothing. Not, I have everything I want. Something better. Everything I need has been accounted for. And a good shepherd earned that sentence in advance. Weeks before the flock ever arrived, he would go ahead of them into the high country, clearing the poisonous plants, checking the water, driving out the predators. The pasture was prepared before the sheep ever saw it. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Catch that. He makes me. Sheep won't rest on their own. There's always another fear, another noise on the ridge. Sound familiar? Some of us haven't truly rested in years. We answer one more message. We run one more scenario at 2 in the morning. And the shepherd doesn't suggest rest. He makes us lie down. Because rest isn't laziness to him. It's provision. He refreshes my soul. Some translations say restores. And shepherds knew exactly what that word meant. Sometimes a sheep rolls onto its back and can't get up. Shepherds call it a cast sheep. Legs in the air, helpless, panicking. In that position, a sheep will die within hours. It cannot right itself. Someone has to come. And the shepherd finds it, rolls it gently over, holds it up on its trembling legs, rubs warmth back into them until it can stand. That's the word David chose. He restores my soul. Not scolds it, not replaces it, restores it. Because David knew what it was to be flat on his back, unable to get up on his own. Maybe you know that position too. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Notice the rhythm of all of it. He makes, he leads, he restores, he guides. David is telling you about God, describing him, the way you describe someone across the room. Hold on to that word, he. It's about to matter more than you know. And then the path descends. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, the valley of the shadow of death. Every shepherd in Israel knew these places, narrow ravines between the low country and the high pastures, where the walls closed in and the sun barely reached, where predators waited in the rocks. There was no route around them. To reach new pasture, the flock had to go through. And David knew the human version of that valley. He hid from King Saul's spears in the black of desert caves. He lost a child. He spent years running from people who wanted him dead, some of them family. This psalm was not written by a man who heard about valleys. It was written inside them. And this is where it happens. The one-word shift at the center of the psalm. Listen closely. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Did you catch it? Every verse before this, David said, He makes me, He leads me, He restores me, talking about God. But the moment the valley goes dark, David stops talking about God and starts talking to him. He becomes you. In the sunlight, God was a subject. In the shadow, God became a companion. That's the secret of Psalm 23. The valley didn't take David further from God. It's the place where God stopped being a concept and became presence. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod was a club. It drove off the wolves. The staff had the crook. It pulled wandering sheep back from the edge. Protection and rescue, both in the same hands. And in the dark of the ravine, a sheep could no longer see its shepherd, but it could hear the rod striking rock up ahead. Tap, tap, I'm here. Keep walking. David could not always see God in his valleys, but he had learned to hear him. He knew he wasn't walking alone. And the psalm doesn't end in the valley, because no valley is a destination, it's a passage. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Shepherds called the high summer pastures tablelands, flat green mesas above the ravines. That's what the valley led to. The table was the reason for the valley. And notice, prepared in the presence of my enemies. Not after the enemies are gone, in their presence. The wolves still watched from the tree line. And the flock grazed in peace anyway, because peace was never about the absence of enemies. It was about the presence of the shepherd. You anoint my head with oil. For a sheep, oil on the head was medicine and protection, applied one animal at a time, the shepherd's hands on each individual face. For a guest, it was the highest honor of the house. David had been both, the wounded animal and the honored son. My cup overflows. Not my cup is adequate, overflows. Grace past the brim, more than the moment requires. And then the last lines, sweeter in the original language than in ours. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. That word follow in Hebrew, radaf, doesn't mean trail politely behind. It means pursue, chase, hunt down. It's a military word, the word for an army pursuing an enemy. David spent years being pursued by spears and armies, and at the end of his life he looks back down the whole road, the fields, the giant, the caves, the failures, the graves, and sees that something else had been chasing him the entire time. Goodness, mercy, relentless all the way. You are not following God's goodness, hoping to catch up to it. It is pursuing you. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The psalm that began in a pasture ends at home. Every path, every valley, every table, the whole journey was always leading somewhere, not just through, but home. So here's what this psalm is asking of you. 4 things. First, let him make you lie down. If you're running on fumes, hear this. For the people of the shepherd, rest isn't quitting. Rest is trust made visible. The pasture was prepared before you got there. Second, if you're flat on your back, cast down and unable to get up, stop trying to right yourself alone. The shepherd's specialty is cast sheep. Let him find you. Say the honest thing. I can't get up from this one. Third, in the valley, do what David did at the center of the psalm. Change one word. Stop talking about God. How could he let this happen? Where is he? And start talking to him. You are with me. Say it out loud into the dark. It will feel strange. Say it anyway. The valley is not where you lose the shepherd. It's where you finally hear how close he's been walking. And fourth, look back. Trace the road behind you the way old David did. The seasons you barely survived, the doors that closed, the help that arrived from nowhere. Somewhere back there, you'll start to see it. Goodness and mercy chasing you the whole way. They haven't stopped, and they won't. All the days of your life, all the way home. Because every story we tell is really a story about you. If you're walking through a valley right now, you're not walking it alone, and I'd love to pray with you in spirit. Comment below, what's your valley, and what's one line of this psalm you're taking into it? Your words might be the still water someone else needs tonight. If this moved you, subscribe and give it a like. It helps these stories find the people in the dark. And if you want to carry this further, our 30-day family Bible devotional journal turns scripture like Psalm 23 into daily reflections you can actually live. The link's in the description. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next story.